Welcome to Player Profiler today, Friday, with me, your host, Brendon Booth, and this week featuring less dog barking, less neighbors ringing the doorbell. The funny part about that, and any of you guys who were watching last week, if you were around, right as I was getting to the top story and needed to be in my mental flow, I had a knock on the door, and my dog went absolutely ballistic from dead sleep to just going nuts up and down the stairs. And then the person knocked again. And then the person rang the doorbell, on which there's a big strip of tape that just says, no. They rang the doorbell. And I was all afluster, but Dogs at Daycare today, I'm here with you. We have big news this week. There's been a ton of movement on depth charts around the league. We're done with the first two sessions of the offseason. We had OTAs. We had mandatory mini camps. All of the press conferences and news and observations are trickling out, and they've been coagulated this week over on Player Profiler NFL, Player Profiler News. So if you go to the website, you can see all of that. And that's what I'm bringing you here in video form every Friday at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern time. I'm glad you're with me. All right. Training camp is about a month off. But in the meantime, I will have the depth chart updates that you want to keep your eyes on. Yeah, if you heard that, you heard me say keep your eyes on. Why do people say keep your eye on? Use both of them. If you want to really pay attention to something, why use just one eye? Use both eyes. So that's our top story. But first, let's get to the news. Oki and his brother Doki. Let's do this. Now, we're going to start off with injuries. Coming off an injury-riddled 2023 season, Joe Burrow is currently rehabbing his wrist, which he had torn. Look for Burrow to continue to work his offseason this offseason during minicamps on rehabbing his wrist. Injuries are nothing new for Burrow, and unfortunately, it's something that has been on his mind. He said, quote, "Whenever the injuries start to stack up, your football mortality kind of comes into the back of your mind." That's definitely something I've thought about and something I have to fight through. Burrow's rehab will be a big conversation this offseason, while the offense could look a little bit different in 2024. We do have some, spoiler alert, some Tee Higgins news we'll get to in a little bit. But Jamar Chase is looking for an extension too. So we will see what is happening on that front. Jamar Burton and anybody? Burrow, when he's healthy, was the quarterback 8 or better in 4 out of a 5-game stretch last season. He's a top-tier quarterback in the NFL based purely on the volume that Cincinnati brings. And he's been a pretty under-the-radar runner with his feet since he was at LSU. But he will continue to be a top fantasy option whether you play redraft or dynasty. His value is still at an all-time high, which, coming off his injury and the emergence of NorCal's own, shout out Folsom High School, Jake Browning. Okay, now down to Los Angeles, where the Chargers play in Irvine, and they started in San Diego. Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh gave an update to the undisclosed injury to running back Gus Edwards. The 29-year-old free agent signing from Baltimore was expected to take the reins to start the season. After an undisclosed injury, the job may be up for grabs. Edwards was seen working on the side with trainers during minicamp and was also not present for the OTAs, leaving questions about his status. Unfortunately, the only update from Harbaugh was that Edwards is on a really good track to be ready for training camp. The nature of the injury right now is unknown, leaving it tough to project what to expect from Edwards moving forward. With fellow free agent signing J.K. Dobbins recovering from a 2023 Week 1 Achilles tear, his second one, the door may be open for 6th-round rookie Kamani Vidal to snag the starting job. Edwards and Dobbins both came to the Chargers from the Ravens, and they both have experience with Greg Roman. This probably helps their causes as far as missing time goes, but This will still be a situation to monitor in training camp. It's very possible that they open camp with Vidal as the only back who's able to take full participation, which would be kind of a coup. A, because he's a 6th round pick, but B, because Gus Edwards is 29 years old. And we know about the age cliff for running backs. Their last productive season typically comes around age 27. Age 28, excuse me, is usually a fall off period as they start to decline. And there are career declines, but with running backs, there's a reason it's called the age cliff. So the Chargers took a real shot in the dark by bringing Gus Edwards over with J.K. Dobbins. Maybe Greg Roman thinks that he has enough left in the tank in Gus Edwards to start the season with. Maybe they love Vidal enough that he's going to be the starter. They just wanted to give him some ramp up time to get used to the offense and the blocking schemes and all that. And wait on J.K. Dobbins, because there aren't really any indications that Dobbins is going to be ready, not after an Achilles tear, which usually takes people a couple years to come back from, and it's his second one. We've been waiting on Dobbins for a few years. So, all right, now moving down to the Big Easy, we got injury news coming out of New Orleans. Saints tight end Juwan Johnson has suffered a foot injury and is expected to miss a significant amount of time. Currently, there is optimism that Johnson will be back by the start of the season, but no definitive timeline has been established. Injuries and attrition are an evergreen part of playing fantasy football, as we all know. The nature of the NFL is violent and physically demanding. More often than not, contingent value is seen at the running back and quarterback position when dealing with injuries. The Juwan Johnson injury creates unique contingent value due to the weapon that is his teammate, Taysom Hill. Wildcat quarterback, H-back, tight end. The man can do it all. So if you were going into the season thinking that Juwan Johnson was going to be a viable tight end target for you in drafts and things like that, it might be time to kind of slide over, look at Taysom Hill. They do have a pretty deep tight end room in New Orleans. Foster Moreau, friend of Derek Carr, is still there. And they do have a draft pick by the name of Dallin Holker, who led the NCAA in receptions and receiving yards among tight ends in 2023. He was the top pass catching tight end in college football. So that might be a tight end room to stay away from unless you feel like you can get some value out of Taysom Hill. All right. Speaking of Taysom Hill, in what could be a Mike, and this is not injury related, this is contract related, but I just wanted to follow up the Juwan Johnson thing because I was already talking about Taysom Hill, so I wanted to streamline things. In what could be a Michael Lewis story on salary cap management, Michael Lewis was the author of Moneyball and The Big Short. The Saints free up much needed cap by converting Taysom Hill's 2024 salary into a signing bonus. They have restructured his contract in order to free up $6.5 million worth of cap space. They converted $8.79 million of his 2024 salary towards a signing bonus. So basically they took it off their cap and they just handed him a check for $8.79 million, or split it up by paydays for the 2024 season. It's maneuvering and manipulation of the salary cap by the Saints that can either be deemed highly impressive or fiscally irresponsible. The Saints have always wanted to keep their window of competing wide open. The moves to stay compliant within the salary cap structure have always been curious. There will be a day of reckoning when everything comes back on them. But salary cap magic is something that Carmen Policy of the San Francisco 49ers started back in the early 90s when free agency first hit the NFL. And it's gotten even more nebulous and harder to figure out. The only thing that we can really do is kind of look at contracts and say, okay, the team's going to save money by cutting this guy, so they're probably going to do that when it comes to the end of contracts. But they've got wizards in the front offices of most of the NFL teams, and the Saints certainly have their share. This might have something to do with Alvin Kamara holding out. He's not satisfied with his current contract, and so this might signal some work towards making things better with him. We do have. I was going to say we have some comments because it's not normal that I stream. I just started doing it last week. Normally I pre-record, but I like streaming better. Anyway, outside of the player news, let's hit this, and I'll see you on the other side.
This episode is made possible by Underdog Fantasy, and Underdog Fantasy is the leader in best ball. When you go to join an Underdog Fantasy best ball draft, it fills very quickly. Especially now, it's Best Ball Mania season, baby! Best Ball Mania 5! I can't believe they're at Best Ball Mania 5 already. $15 million in prizes. They're giving out $15 million with $1.5 million to first. Playing in best ball leagues makes you better. It helps train you on player value and strategy. And Underdog offers a lot more than just best ball contests. They offer pick'ems. My new favorite, the golf pick'ems. But they have the NBA pick'ems, baseball pick'ems going on throughout the offseason. Hit the pick'ems, back to best ball, hit the pick'ems. So use promo code Underworld. Promo code Underworld gets you a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. So they've increased the maximum deposit bonus. It was $100. Now it's up to $125. When you get the Underdog app, use promo code Underworld and go draft your ass off.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just checking my pick'ems for today. And we're back. I teased a little bit earlier. I was going to be talking about Tee Higgins. Tee Higgins signed his franchise tag, and he participated in the mandatory minicamps. It's great news if your name is Joe Burrow or if you're a Cincinnati Bengal fan. Not so much if your name is Andre Yosevich. Tee Higgins is signing the franchise tag, allowing him to be part of the team's activities last week. You've been looking for a long-term contract or a possible trade. Both sides weren't close. They put the tag on him. Then the ball was in his court. He signed. He could have held out and not played, but then he wouldn't have gotten any money. And Cincinnati could have just called his bluff and not traded him for the entire season if he wanted to sit out. So he had to do it. Speaking of unhappiness and contracts, and this is it's going to be a tale as old as time. We were talking about Le'Veon Bell 6 years ago. Now we're talking about Alvin Kamara. We're talking about Tee Higgins. And there's another one over on my side. West Coast is the best coast. Shout out NorCal, Brandon Ayuk. Now, he took his negotiations public to TikTok, telling former teammate Jaden Daniels that the 49ers don't want him back. That's kind of crazy. But Brandon Ayuk has made it publicly known that he either wants to get paid by the San Francisco 49ers or get traded to a team where he can get compensated to his liking. This is a topic that has moved to the front burner throughout the offseason, only to be shelved and placed on the back burner as far as immediate attention. In a video of a FaceTime call with former college teammate Jaden Daniels, Ayuk can be seen telling Daniels that the 49ers don't want him back. While the 49ers have listened to offers for both Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, the team has not gotten any offers to their liking. The potential logjam for team building presenting itself, the 49ers created contingent value drafting Florida Gators wide receiver Ricky Pearsall in the first round. While Ayuk's number one priority is getting paid, the 49ers' urgent priority may not involve succumbing to Ayuk's demands. Now, for those of you that just got triggered by me saying Ricky Pearsall's name that play fantasy football, don't forget about Jacob Corum. He has better analytics than Ricky Pearsall, just doesn't have the draft capital, so he might emerge out of that wide receiver room. And this is something that the situation that unfortunately I've been talking about for quite a few weeks in a row now, not knowing what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. The 49ers are in quite a position. They have two stars who seem to have become a little bit big for their britches. One of the things that you need to have an ensemble roster, and that's basically what the 49ers have. You think of it as like in terms of a movie like Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 was an ensemble cast. Basically, everybody is kind of credited equally. Everybody is the headliner. There's multiple headliners. That's what the 49ers offense is. And when people start getting outsized, like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, things can kind of get a little haywire, which they're at now. Now, the idea of Ayuk going to Washington is a very intriguing one because Adam Peters of the Washington Commanders has a relationship with Ayuk, being part of the personnel team that drafted Ayuk, who also was a teammate of Jaden Daniels. So look out for that. If there was one magic spot for Ayuk to land, I think it would probably be Washington. All right, back across. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Reports from Steelers offseason camps indicate that Pat Freiermuth and new quarterback Russell Wilson have a connection. Pittsburgh Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth was poised for a 2023 breakout after scoring 7 touchdowns as a rookie, then garnering 98 targets and 732 yards receiving in 2022. He was going to put it all together last season. A funny thing happened on the way to superstardom. Freiermuth suffered through a combination of injury and poor quarterback play in 2023 on his way to a line of 308 yards receiving on just 32 catches with 2 touchdowns, roughly half by all measures of his previous production. Enter Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the new presumed quarterback 1 in Pittsburgh. Reports have been saying that he's outplaying Justin Fields, which anybody who, deep dives analytics, gets into DVOA, things like that, understand that Justin Fields is not a great in real life quarterback. He is a good fantasy quarterback. So for Russell Wilson, who is a good, if declining, in real life quarterback, it's not a surprise that he's outplaying him. Here's the thing about Russell Wilson versus the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. Last season, Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett combined to throw just as many catchable passes as Russell Wilson did when he was in Denver. Russell Wilson threw 100 fewer passes, still had the same number of catchable balls. So Russell Wilson is the new quarterback. He has a better ability to put the ball in the hands of his receivers than who the Steelers rolled out last season. Target monster Deontay Johnson has also left the building, leaving the vacated targets to Muth and wide receiver George Pickens. There's been some talk about Calvin Austin, but he hasn't really shown the talent level to compete for targets. He might get some because there are vacated targets, but Muth and George Pickens, they're the guys. So also we have offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. His offensive scheme is heavily reliant on a pass-catching tight end and has allowed Jonnu Smith and Delaney Walker to thrive, as well as Kyle Pitts and Delaney Walker. According to reports following OTAs and Steelers minicamp, Wilson and Freiermuth had developed a connection already, and Freiermuth, quote, performed better and more consistently for 4 weeks than the other Steelers. Even if it's not Wilson but Justin Fields, Fields had a chemistry in Chicago with Cole Kmet that led to Kmet finishing as the PPR tight end 7 in 2 seasons in a row. So you're not going to see it. Yes, the point was made that Russell Wilson is going to be a benefit to Freiermuth, but Justin Fields won't be a deterrent to success for Freiermuth. Freiermuth is a must draft across all formats. He should be able to meet either, if not both, of analyst Andrew Cooper's thresholds for yin yang tight end as your second tight end drafted. Those 2 criteria would be either 90 targets or 10 touchdowns. I definitely see 90 targets in Muth's future. And hey, I mean, touchdowns you can't really predict, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that he catches 10. All right, let's move back to Los Angeles, where the Rams of St. Louis play. Rookie running back Blake Corum continues to impress Sean McVay during minicamp. Now, Blake Corum stood out. He's continuing to learn the offense and showing great maturity while taking advantage of the extra reps, while teammate Kyren Williams is rehabbing his injury. Those of you who are watching Player Profiler a lot know what Matt Kelly thinks about Kyren Williams. Sean McVay has this to say about Corum, quote, on the offensive side, I have been pleased with a lot of guys, but Blake Corum has really stood out. He is mature beyond his years. I love the way that he handles himself. I love even more how when there have been a couple of things that did not go the way he wanted, how he responded the next play. The mental toughness that you see from him, running back coach Ron Gold is excellent with that room. Even Kyron, in his own way, has done such a great job of imparting a certain amount of wisdom with him, unquote. A lot of folks were uncertain about Corum landing in LA as a fantasy football prospect. With the high praise and ethic he has put in, Corum has a chance to cement himself in the offense, allowing him to have some redraft consideration, as well as a strong dynasty running back for those looking for a steal or in their rookie drafts. Now, Blake Corum had a fantastic year 2 years ago, and then he got hurt. His production declined in 2023 as the Michigan Wolverines went on to win the national championship. He had a running mate, a running back room mate. He had a partner in the backfield named Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards, his production also declined, no injury. Blake Corum's decline was likely not due to injury because it matched Donovan Edwards, and it was likely to a difference in offensive line play by the national champion Michigan Wolverines, which means that Blake Corum, over a year after his injury, should be completely healed. We see it every once in a while. A guy gets hurt in college, stumbles out of his rookie year because he's still rehabbing his injury. George Pickens is a great example. He hurt himself in his last year at Georgia, and he wasn't 100% playing in his rookie year. Blake Corum is going to be 100% in his rookie year, and that's going to be very important. Okay, we will be right back with our top story of the week, but first let's hear from Matt again. Okay.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Thank you, Matt. Matt Kelly, everybody. All right. Now it's our top story of the week. Depth chart updates. Let's talk some depth chart updates. All right. First one, and this is one that I've been talking about quite a bit. In fact, last week, in the middle of the week, my commish of my home league came over, and we were hanging out and talking, and of course, chatting fantasy football, etc. And we were both marveling at how Sam Darnold could be the dark horse to have a huge breakout year at quarterback this year. And word out of camp, Sam Darnold hype is back. The Vikings plan to start Sam Darnold over rookie J.J. McCarthy. According to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the Minnesota Vikings are planning to start Sam Darnold over first-round rookie J.J. McCarthy, citing, quote, untapped potential for the reason to start Darnold. Darnold has never lacked the skill set to look exactly like what you want in a quarterback. His problem is turnovers, 70 turnovers in 67 games. You can argue that the Vikings offer some great targets for Darnold and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Starting Darnold is in the best interest for J.J. McCarthy to learn the ropes in order to avoid overwhelming the rookie like Darnold was in New York. Exactly what I've been saying for so long. Give the rook a clipboard, let him learn, let the veterans who've been kicking around different franchises, learning new offenses for the last 5 or 6 years, let them take over, kind of like what Baker Mayfield did last year. Is Sam Darnold this year's Baker Mayfield? Could be. There's are worlds in which that will happen. Darnold will be a low-end fantasy quarterback, should only be starting in advantageous matchups. There is no doubt he can make positive plays with Jefferson and Addison and eventually TJ Hawkinson. It's just the matter of whether he can be consistent enough to make both receivers viable options every week. I fully expect the leash to be very short on Darnold. His turnovers had led to his quick benching in Carolina. The Vikings will end up starting McCarthy sooner rather than later. I can see a world in which Sam Darnold starts all 17 games because he comes out of the gate strong. Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof. He's going to make Darnold look really good. And, I can see that happening. So let's keep an eye on that. Unless JJ McCarthy, who we know from his combine performance, etc., the dude has some serious physical skills. And there's also a world in which he completely outshines Sam Darnold, goes through training camp, and then starts the preseason games and shows enough that, Sam Darnold's not the starter in Minnesota. He is at this moment, but, there's a long way to go, guys and gals. I don't know why I said guys. Folks is what was in my head. Without an established number 2 wide receiver behind Drake London, the Atlanta Falcons may have an uncut gem in, say it with me because you all know the name. It's everybody. Casey Washington. That's right. Exactly. Casey Washington. When the Atlanta Falcons opted to select Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th overall pick, they chose against boosting their wide receiver room behind Drake London. They traded for Rondale Moore. They signed Darnell Mooney, but those are only significant waves for the Falcons. Those have been the only significant waves for the Falcons wide receiver room this season. Casey Washington hasn't registered much buzz, but he was drafted in the 6th round from the Illinois Fighting Illini. The rookie ascended from the 3rd and 4th string offense to a mixture of 1st and 2nd team units during team OTAs. Wide receivers like Ike Hilliard praised Washington's strong hands and hand-eye coordination, so he's a good ball tracker. There's been an early chemistry with Michael Penix Jr. and praise given by wide receiver counterpart Drake London. For fantasy gamers who are having difficulty exhibiting some ingenuity in selecting different players in the last round of your best ball drafts, Casey Washington is a new player to build into your drafting portfolio, particularly with the Atlanta Falcons stacks and correlated to Falcons late season opponents. Now, I'm looking at a stack in a league over on Underdog where I have Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be adding Casey Washington at the very back end of that. So, all right, on to Kansas City, defending champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Is it a dynasty? We'll find out at the end of this year. Kansas City Chiefs running back and my personal flag plant of 2023. God, he had such a good combine. Deneric Prince is getting some offseason praise, and he could be a dark horse breakout candidate for 2024. Deneric Prince is hoping to add his name to the list of undrafted free agent success stories in the NFL history books. The Kansas City Chiefs running back has a long road still to go, though. Undrafted out of Tulsa in 2023, Prince was an older prospect that wasn't really on many radars. He was able to muster 2 carries in 2 years at Texas A&M. He followed that by transferring to Tulsa, where he raced for 1,728 yards on 314 attempts for a 5.5 yard per carry average in 3 seasons. It was at the 2023 scouting combine, however, that he really turned heads. Posting an athletic score of 103.8, good for 3rd among running backs, was good, but at 6 foot tall, 216 pounds with a BMI of 29.3, Prince outclassed Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, and Devon Achane with a speed score of 114.2. The speed score includes metrics for strength and power, which gives it a higher correlation to carries and yards than 40 times by themselves. With a similar size, weight, and speed score to Chiefs' current RB1 Isaiah Pacheco, who was drafted just 11 picks away from Mr. Irrelevant in 2022 7th round, Prince confirms that the Chiefs have a type at running back. They like guys who are 5'10", 11, 6 foot tall, 215, 220 pounds that run 4.4s. If you're going to have a type, that's a pretty good one. Isaiah Pacheco is that. Some that we don't really talk a lot about with undrafted free agents is a lot of times the cost to sign an undrafted free agent, the guaranteed money in the contract is usually, for the good ones, is usually around $1 million. Deneric Prince's signing with the Chiefs, he was paid more last year than Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th-round draft pick, and the automatic signing amount that they give at that level is not as much as some of the UDFAs. So some of the UDFAs could be drafted in the 6th or 7th round, but their agents tell teams, don't draft him and we'll work out a contract, because they'd rather be a free agent than be, stuck with a team. They want to take offers and they get a little bit more money. So that's where Deneric Prince was coming from. Isaiah Pacheco, not quite as lucky, not making as much money, and he's a 7th rounder. So for him to stick, I mean, it doesn't happen a lot. He's kind of a unicorn out there, but he is really good. And Prince is going to have to do a lot, like wait for an injury probably to overtake him. However, at this point, Prince played well in the 2023 preseason, showing carrying ability as well as returning kicks and making tackles. He's spent all but 2 games on the practice squad and didn't receive any carries. He is the physical analog to Pacheco, and that could go a long way this preseason. After Chiefs OTAs and minicamps, Prince is the running back, quote, poised to sneak into the rotation, according to Charles Goldman via Twitter. This would be among Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's still there, whose experience suggests that he's locked in, although he does have a cuttable contract, and 2024's very large UDFA Carson Steele. So again, they have a type. If Prince winds up as Pacheco's backup, his athleticism and the preferred style of the Chiefs' run game suggest he would likely put up similar numbers to the 900 yards and 7 touchdowns that Pacheco averages. He's a back-end handcuff candidate in all formats and remains a bench stash if owned in Dynasty. All right, back to Irvine for the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles. Their 2nd-round pick is already wowing his teammates and coaches during 2024 camps. Another flag plant of mine. Dads for Ladd McConkey, rookie wide receiver of the Los Angeles Chargers, is pushing all the right buttons in his bid to become a force in the NFL. The 2nd-round pick, who began college as a walk-on, obviously has the work ethic to succeed, and it's impressing his quarterback and coaches. During the Chargers OTAs and minicamp, Justin Herbert noticed that McConkey comes off as, quote, a 4 or 5 year veteran. He understands the game, leverage. He's a smart player and very athletic. I'm really looking forward to getting him the ball, unquote. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman noted that McConkey has been very quick to pick things up, has a great attitude, and displays the traits, quote, you look for, unquote. McConkey is definitely somebody that I've been pounding the table for a while. Guy gets open against zone coverage. He's a zone beater. He is a crisp route runner. He's got great hands, and he's going to be open every time Justin Herbert looks up, and he's going to be Justin Herbert's best friend. Dynasty owners who have been deep diving the analytics are already sold on McConkey. Primarily a slot receiver at Georgia, McConkey was 3rd in the 2024 wide receiver class in first downs per route run, 3rd in the class in first downs per route run, 3rd in the class in yards per route run against zone, 4th in the class in yards after the catch per reception, as well as 4th in the class in missed tackles forced per reception. Now, when you're talking 3rd and 4th in the class, let's see. There's Marvin Harrison Jr., and there's Malik Neighbors, and there's Rome Odunze. Oh, and then there's Ladd McConkey. That's the rarefied air that he's in. And if we're talking 3rd in the class, you're leaving out a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Rome Odunze, because Malik Neighbors was basically the best at all those things. To go along with his athleticism and his, according to Roman's, speed, the quickness, the ability to change direction and catch the ball, make plays with the ball in his hands, all are traits that some analysts would refer to as a quarterback's best friend. McConkey will be open a lot. Likely the most important factor in his path to stardom will be his target share. The Chargers finished 2023 at 5-12. They brought in the Harbaugh regime, which includes Roman as offensive coordinator as well. Target leader Keenan Allen is gone. Austin Eckler and Gerald Everett, second and third in targets respectively, are gone. Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer return. However, they combined for fewer targets than Keenan Allen in 2023. Considering that Allen played out of the slot almost 60% of the time, McConkey will be the perfect replacement. A 120 target season for McConkey is realistic, and if things break right, he could challenge Puka and Garrett Wilson's rookie marks. All right, let's go to Detroit. Sione Vaki is quickly acclimating himself with the Lions' first and second stringers and is in a position to emerge as the Lions' RB3 behind David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Vaki spent most of his time at the safety position for the Utah Utes in college. Last year, he was asked to step in as an emergency running back. He showed natural instincts for hitting rushing lanes with speed, as well as spectacular hands and receiving acumen. The short stint impressed Brad Holmes and the Lions brass enough to trade multiple picks for the opportunity to select Vaki as a running back in the 4th round of the draft. He's still learning the position, but he brings a competitive nature and explosiveness that makes his upside intriguing. Early reports from Lions beat writers believe he has a strong chance to edge out Craig Reynolds for the primary backup role behind Montgomery and Gibbs. Craig Reynolds, stalwart, perennial waiver wire occupier. Every time something happens in the Detroit Lions backfield, you always think, can Reynolds do it? Well, maybe Vaki is the guy to take over. For fantasy managers, it's important to monitor these reports, but not overreact. It's best to keep Vaki on waivers for now. It would still take an injury for either starter in front of him to launch him into any sort of fantasy relevance. Also, he's more of a handcuff to Gibbs' receiving and change of pace rather than the bell cow that David Montgomery is, the goal line threat, etc. So just watch Sione Vaki. Reports out of New York Jets camp is that running back Braylon Allen is looking nasty. Now here's a guy that I thought was going to be the RB1 in the class, but he kind of fell down a few notches. And then he goes to New York where everybody's like, no, they have Breece Hall. He'll never get on the field, except that he is wowing people and turning their heads. I thought he would be a perfect fit in Dallas. They wouldn't have had to bring Zeke back. It would have been the Braylon Allen and Rico Dowdle show. It appears that rookie running back Braylon Allen is already turning heads at Jets camp. Allen was drafted in the 4th round in April, along with Isaiah Davis, who was selected in the 5th round. Allen is a big back who can break tackles, leading to plenty of yards after contact, and normally converts on short yardage situations. In Wisconsin, he was a workhorse. He rushed 597 times for 3,494 yards and 35 touchdowns in 3 seasons. He was a freshman breakout. Even with his size, the running back was also effective in the receiving game, brought in 50 receptions for 275 yards in 3 seasons with the Badgers. And then he was the 11th running back taken in the draft with the number 1 physical profile that you look for in top 10 running backs. The depth chart behind Breece Hall is in disarray. Allen is seizing the opportunity early on. The emergence of Allen and Isaiah Davis. Also, Izzy Abanikanda has seen himself free fall down the depth chart. Everybody had high hopes for Izzy last year, and then he got hurt on the Hard Knocks show. For now, Allen should be drafted in the 2nd round of rookie drafts, can be taken as a flyer later in redrafts, since he was the leading candidate to be Hall's handcuff. All right, almost done. Trey Tucker. Las Vegas Raiders second-year wide receiver Trey Tucker seems to be, quote, taking the next step as a receiving weapon. Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Trey Tucker availed himself well as a speedy target as a rookie. Reports emerging from the Raiders OTAs and mandatory minicamp seem to indicate that Tucker will firmly be the wide receiver 3 in offensive coordinator Luke Getsy's offense. At 5'9", Tucker is on the smaller side, but his 4.4 speed and ability to cut on out routes and comeback routes have head coach Antonio Pierce impressed. Quote, Tucker's a different dude. Don't look at his size. He's the biggest dude out there. Whoa, AP. All right, laying it down. The Raiders receiving core is a full one with many mouths to feed. Wide receivers Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers are well-established targets. Tight ends Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers were 2 of the best pass catchers at the position in college in the last 5 years. So Tucker may not have the volume to be a major fantasy asset, but were something to happen to those ahead of him on the depth chart, Tucker might be a nice late-round stash. And we got a rookie sighting, Tampa Bay rookie wide receiver Jalen McMillan. He is showing early signs of being a productive wide receiver in the NFL. I wrote extensively about him before the 2023 season, and then he got hurt and passed by Jalen Polk, which makes him a value. Jalen McMillan was supposed to have a huge season at the University of Washington in 2023, alongside top 10 pick Rome Odunze. A leg injury managed to snuff out the McMillan hype and allow teammate Jalen Polk time to shine, but it also allowed the Buccaneers to snag a good wide receiver at good value. Bucs head coach Todd Bowles is duly impressed. Quote, "He's a good route runner. He's a competitor. He's very intelligent. That impressed me the most. I can't wait to see him in pads," Bowles said. McMillan made a ton of plays during the offseason sessions, began to develop good rapport with quarterback Baker Mayfield, and is in position to begin the season as the wide receiver 3 behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. One of McMillan's better assets in college was his versatility. He was effective both outside and in the slot. That type of route tree only helps when learning a new system. He was asked to do everything. So doing everything in camp is not going to be foreign to him. Also, Baker Mayfield was talking about him and was basically saying like he loves throwing the ball to him because he's aggressive to the ball. He has great hands. He uses his hands to catch, and he has got all of the physical tools and everything. He just needs to kind of like learn the speed of the game and all that stuff, but he's almost ready. We'll see if he can do that by the end of the preseason. And finally, to Arizona, Phoenix, where I just was a few weeks ago, and it was hot. The Cardinals have plans to deploy Greg Dortch as their primary slot receiver. You heard it, Greg Dortch, while also lining him up outside to change up looks for opposing defenses. Dortch has had to scrap and claw his entire NFL career to see the field, standing at only 5'7" tall. That's like 3 inches taller than Tom Cruise. While he only had 24 receptions last year and didn't play much in the first half of the season, he looked good when he was given an expanded opportunity, scoring 10-plus fantasy points in PPR leagues in 4 out of 7 games to end the season. Whoa. Fantasy managers should be deciphering the offseason coach speak from the Cardinals to identify that Marvin Harrison Jr. will be their number 1 receiver. What? Michael Wilson is number 2 on the outside and Dortch as their 3 in the slot. This leaves Zay Jones and the other Cardinals receivers on the outside looking in and not fantasy targets in most formats. In leagues where kick returns score points, Dortch gets an additional bump in value as he had 46 returns for the Cardinals last year and projects to be a return specialist for them again this year. What leagues are out there that reward kick return? The Scott Fish Bowl 14. And if you haven't, go to scottfishbowl.com. Go ahead and enter. Scour Twitter because there's constant contests that could get you a ticket into, get you an invitation to the Fish Bowl. It's great for charity. It's a huge event, 3,600 teams this year. Still about 70% of the invitations are yet to go out. So go win those contests. But here's another thing. They talked on the stream today about asking for a picture, show you a picture of you wearing Scott Fish Bowl merch, and you get entered into one of the races to get an invitation to the Fish Bowl. So if you go to fantasycares.org and buy merch this year and don't get in, maybe next year you can wear that shirt, take a picture of yourself, and qualify for a race, and it goes to charity. So it's not like you're just, throwing money away. Anyway, that's it for me. This was a great week. There was lots of stuff. There probably won't be this much stuff for the next month, but we shall see. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share it around, all that stuff. Leave me some comments. Give me some feedback. I want to hear from you. Let's get this show huge. Also, I'm going to be taking over a Dynasty show called the Dynasty Stock Exchange on Tuesdays on Player Profiler NFL, Player Profiler News. Go to Twitter, find Player Profiler NFL, Player Profiler News. Check us out over there. I'm at Big Boned at FFB on the tweet machine, and you can find me to follow all of the things. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.